Hi, this is Odagiri Greentooth, and welcome to my Candlekeep Mysteries adventure. I am Odagiri Greentooth, a Halfling sorcerer. Well, maybe I ought to tell you a little bit about my Greentooth name. It appears some of my ancestors lived in Arm, and a few of them developed a tooth disease that made one of their teeth turn green. Unfortunately, my halfling ancestors were ridiculed to the point that they had to leave Arm. Eventually, they settled, or at least my grandfather settled, in Waterdeep. My father, Pops, eventually made an alliance, or by joining the Lord's Alliance at Waterdeep. As a result, we worshipped Lathander. I grew up helping Lord's Alliance by supporting the fishing industry. However, on our last trip out to sea, we were attacked by an obelisk. I don't remember much, but what I do remember are the consequences of such a meeting with such a deadly foe is that I have recurring nightmares. Nightmares of myself drowning by Waterdeep, the sea around Waterdeep. I don't know what to make of it. Is it just a nightmare? Or is it foreboding? Is it a vision of what's to come? I know not the answers to this. Seeing that I was troubled by these nightmares, the Lord's Alliance sent me to Waterdeep in search of Matreous. To bring Matreous to Oakhurst to help a Lord's Alliance member by the name of Carwyn Hercule, whose family members, two of them, I believe, have been cursed. He is to go there and do what he can to resolve the curse. So off I went to Candlekeep. I spent a few days at Candlekeep, but could not locate Matreous. Eventually I went into the local inn, and I was asking around for Matreous, but with all the noise and hubbub within the tavern, and a lot of people had quite a few drinks, I may add, no one seemed to pay attention to me. Well, at least until I bumped into a few adventurers who overheard me saying the name Matreous. Those adventurers were Cedric, a half-elf druid, Garris, a tiefling ranger, Ushnar, a half-orc cleric, and Quint, a human rogue. And with all the noise there, we tried to discuss our situation in trying to find Matreous, and eventually we went into a side room. And we all discovered we were looking for this Matreous. His last whereabouts were in the pedagogy pillars, so off we went. Quint apparently has some connections within the city and had a key that allowed us further in. As you know, Candlekeep, they don't like outsiders very well, and they're very mysterious and secretive. They only choose to allow a few into the inner, I guess the inner towers, I believe. So off we went to the pedagogy pillars, I believe they are called, to locate Matreous. And we went to his study where he had frequented, and with Quint opening the doors using his keys, we were able to investigate his room. Cedric found a book. It was called The Extra Dimensional Travels by Mordekainen, of all people. and he started to examine it. And in the margins, written by, I believe, a wizard by the name of Fistandria, had written cryptic notes. Fortunately for us, Cedric was able to decipher the notes. And apparently there was a password called Scepter. So Cedric said it out loud, trying to, I guess, asking us what we thought of this word, this password Scepter. And as soon as he said that, out pops this portal, a green portal. And so we stood there trying to decide what to do, and as we were talking, the portal started. It looked like it was losing its strength. It started to shrink, and I wasted no time. I grabbed Bordenkainen's book, and into the portal I jumped. I feel this would be what the prophet Stead Whitehorn himself would do. The prophet of Lathander, Stead Whitehorn, was so wise and so brave. He would not be afraid, and neither was I. So I jumped into the portal, and shortly thereafter my newfound companions joined me. And there, across the abyss, staring at us, was Matreous, wondering what we were doing. And we said we found his book. I gave it to him. I gave it back to him. But he was spending his whole time trying to figure out what the password was to get back. And while he was still thinking it, the portal was starting to close. And we hurried. I grabbed Matreous, and we came back through the portal back into his study. Boy, was I worried about being left in whatever realm or dimension that we ended up going into. So Cedric's friends, we found out, are afflicted by an illness in this gnome village, an illness or a disease that requires Matreus's help. And so hearing this, I figured that more people were in need at this village. These gnomes, the friends of Cedric's, really needed Matreus's help more than I. And so although I know that that the Lord's Alliance had told me to bring Matreous to Oakhurst, I thought 2 family members could wait, while a whole village, or at least some of that village, afflicted by some illness and disease, surely that required Matreus's immediate attention. However, Matreous had other plans. He offered to help. He was a little overwhelmed with so many people wanting his help. But he said if we were to help him, I guess, investigate what was on the other side of the portal, he would help us first by going to the gnome village, and I guess afterwards he would help us with the cursed family members at Oakhurst. So we agreed. What else could we do? Matreous was not budging. So off we went. We convinced Quint, who knew the area very well, to tell a friend to knock on the door in 2 hours. And if there was no response, he was to say Scepter, so the portal would appear in case we were stuck on the other side. And as we headed back, Ushnar, the half-orc, our half-orc companion, reminded us that we'd left our equipment, our weapons, and our armor back in our rooms, as it was custom in Candlekeep not to be walking around with it. People found it odd and discerning for you to be walking around with armor in this very peaceful town. So luckily for us, Ushnar had reminded us. So we went back, we grabbed our things, our possessions, and off we went through the portal. Matreous stayed behind, and as we entered the portal, and we waited for the portal to close, we heard a scream. Matreous, on the other side, screamed. And it felt as though we were stuck. I hope that's not the case. I hope we are not stuck in this portal. But alas, Prophet Stead Whitehorn, he would not be afraid. He would be brave and wise, and he would meet this challenge, facing it with confidence. And I will emulate him. I will do as Stead Whitehorn, the prophet, the brave, the wise, did himself. And I will show no fear, even if we are stuck in whatever dimension this is. So facing us was a room. We opened the door to a room. It was full of books. And what caught my eye, a large embossed golden eye, was on this book. And I cast Mage Hand, obviously. Some of these books might carry a spell or a curse, such as those friends at Oakhurst have. I did not want to be cursed myself. So I used the hand and I asked Cedric to decipher the book, but it turned out it was pretty much just a normal book. However, Cedric did observe a cat in the room, and he was able to somehow speak with it. All he heard, it was him meowing and the cat meowing too. Apparently, it was the cat of that wizard Fistandria. And he had told Cedric that in the bookshelves there was a book on which you could tug, and the bookshelf would open. And thus begins our mystery, I guess, to figure out where this Fistandria is, or even more so, figure out how to get back to Candlekeep, to this Matreous, and what has happened to Matreous. So it is quite intriguing. And as the prophet Stead Whitehorn would do, we would face this challenge, and we will face it bravely, and we will solve it. So join us next time as we go through this shelf, this door within this shelf, and try to solve this mystery. Thank you, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.